Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It is 16 after 8 o'clock exactly, and we do apologize for the slight delay in bringing you news and views this Wednesday morning. But obviously, as you know, we're unable to get hold of Adil and Chabaleng, energy expert, to talk about the crisis at Eskom and the energy crisis in the country. But Alhamdulillah, we have managed to connect with Humairaa Mayet. She is the current chair of the Wits PSC and a member organization of the South African BDS Coalition. We're just sorry that we weren't able to bring you this interview via Zoom. There seems to be connectivity problems on Humaira's side, but still, Alhamdulillah, we have on the phone. So, Assalamu alaikum to you, Humairaa. Welcome to the program.
Assalamu alaikum, Julie. Thank you so much for having me.
Lovely to have you, and obviously a very important issue to be unpacking this morning. And it's really about Wits stifling voices of activists, for want of a better word. And you are saying that Wits does have a history of stifling those voices. You started by saying that fees must fall, with that being a starting point. Wits has become a highly securitized and politically sanitized space in which students are actually discouraged from engaging in activism and political activity. And I just want to go on to say, Humairaa, we've been trying to cover the story during Ramadan. And we've also wanted to give Wits the right of reply. So we've been battling to get hold of them. Till now, we were unable to get hold of them, but they have sent us written communication in response to, to your comments regarding Wits' stance on activism, very particularly the BDS. So I will read that out a little later on in the program. But let's start off by your allegation that Wits is stifling voices. And let's also understand what are the students on the ground feeling? Is there, apart from raising your voices, apart from going open with this situation, what more can you guys as a student body be doing? Welcome to the program, and it is over to you, Humairaa.
So I concur a lot with what you said earlier, particularly with regards to it all beginning with season 4. Probably began before that, to my knowledge, and it's well versed in the post-season 4 era. So what I just wanted to bring to light quickly was under Section 17 of the Constitution, it states clearly that everyone has the right to peacefully and unarmed assemble, demonstrate, and picket without presentation. And I'd like to just clarify that that's what we were doing before we were stopped. And I can safely say that that's happened many times on campus, and students, and of course, saying the claims that it's bureaucracy and it's fights the administration, and says that no, we have to go through this, do these things. But it's not. We're legally allowed to picket and protest peacefully. We were, of course. And not to be hindered doing so. So, like I said, and like you mentioned, the Wits Palestine Solidarity Committee has faced a lot of trouble since its inception in 2005. And I can safely say that Wits does not treat us the same way it treats other clubs and societies on campus. I know that the News 24 article got quite a scathing reply from Wits University, where they called my claims baseless. But I have evidence that my claims are in fact not based from myself and other ex-PSC executive members who can say with absolute certainty that we have been treated, we have been mistreated by the university. And a lot of our demonstrations have been stopped, like I said, the season 4. During Peace Must Fall, it began obviously as a peaceful picket, which then turned violent, very unfortunately. But I mean, the youth Israeli used cannons on students, and they brought the police in. They used rubber bullets and things like that. And those should not be used in a country like South Africa, at least at all in an institution which claims to be progressive like this university. So I can just say all around, it's very disappointing that effectively misconstrued everything I said and made it out to be that I was lying and I am like completely mistaken when that's actually not the case.
When you talk about bringing in the police and using rubber bullets, etc., what comes to mind is a very sad incident during the Asinamali protest. Cops opened fire and shot rubber bullets into the crowd, which resulted heartbreakingly in the killing of a bystander that was caused CZ Ntumba. And that was really, really a life wasted and a life lost absolutely unnecessarily. So, yeah, you kind of wonder why Wits does go to those lengths. But that being said, are you suggesting, Humairaa, that because you are with the BDS, that you people are being marginalized for the stance you're taking in total support of Palestine? Perhaps other activist groups on campus are being treated differently? And also, let me then also read this little piece out to you. In 2013, Professors Adam Habib and Loyiso Nonka, the two vice chancellors of Wits University, admitted, I underscore the word admitted, that the university has come under financial pressure from donors who support Israel. And I quote, financial pressure from donors who support Israel, and that there have indeed been some individuals who've threatened to withdraw their donations. Your thoughts on that quote?
So yeah, I think specifically the PSC is very much marginalized within the campus community because we support Palestine unapologetically, and we see this come to fruition every year during Israeli Apartheid Week, which, funny enough, in their response, it's called Israeli Awareness Week. I've never heard that before. But yes, we see during IAW every year where SALJUS, the South African Union of Jewish Students, a blatantly Zionist organization, they admit this on their website, they call themselves Zionists, where they get prime real estate on campus, they get to speak to students, they get to bring people onto campus. For example, a few years ago, I think it was 2018, they brought onto campus an Israeli Defense Force soldier. In 2019, they brought onto campus an Ethiopian woman who was also a soldier. And this year, they brought Miss Iraq, the supermodel, who participated in the Miss Universe contest with Lalela Mswane, among others. And the mere fact that SALJUS has the funding to bring in these people, and that they get the permission to bring actual soldiers onto campus, is something so ridiculous to the PSC. We've contested this many times. Obviously, nothing has come of it. Very unfortunate. And they basically control the narrative during Israeli Apartheid Week, which I feel they shouldn't even be allowed to participate in. SALJUS exists as a religious club and society on campus, not a political one, while the PSC is so obviously a political one. And during this week, they make the issue of Israel and Palestine, they make the issue of the Israeli occupation of Palestine as a religious issue, which we all know is very much incorrect. It's a political issue, it's a humanitarian issue. And they paint it out to be, they paint the PSC out to be very anti-Semitic and very intolerant of Jewish people, when that's not the case. We're not anti-Semitic, we're anti-Zionist. Zionist, and year after year we try to underscore that difference. We emphasize that Zionism is not Judaism, therefore anti-Semitism is not, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And we have been trying to do some research into the donors who support Israel, but we haven't been able to gauge much on that front, unfortunately. It's very difficult to get information about these sorts of things from the university, and obviously that we're getting through the donors, whatever it is. But we have been trying to see what's been going on there. I mean, I know Sargis as a society is backed by the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, which partially funds their campaigns during IAW. They assist in bringing guests from Israel and other places. I mean, just the mere fact that they can be funded by external organizations like the SHABD and the SAZF, things like that, means that they already have a lot more power and a lot more say on the Islamic list.
Okay, Humairaa, we do have communication from Burtle Zuma, the Senior Communications Officer at WITS Communication Services. He highlights 3 points. I'm going to share them with you one by one and like you to respond. I think you have already covered a lot of that, but let's just, share it with you. I have no doubt that you have also received a copy of this communique. He starts off by saying, firstly, WITS University rejects the allegations put forward by the WITS PSC that it represses WITS students who support the Palestinian struggle. Rather, the university provides a platform for diverse voices to be heard and encourages rational engagement and debate, particularly around contentious issues, which is exactly why the university agrees to different clubs and societies hosting events during Israeli Apartheid Awareness Week every year. The article does go on, but I've just edited up to that point. Your thoughts?
So I think that's a blatant lie from this university, given that they encourage engagement and debate, because before IAW every year the PSC has to sign a contract saying we won't go into Sargis' space, we won't open up a debate with Sargis, things like that, which is fine and well. We don't want to engage with Zionists. That's not our vision, our mission. It's not anything like that. But the mere fact that this university can call these contentious issues, when it's so clear cut, it's the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians by Zionist entities. They call it contentious issues. This university likes to, it appears that this university likes to hide behind these very loaded terms like contentious issues. And they say that they allow different clubs and societies to host events during IAW, which means basically the PSC and Sargis. They're the only two who really host anything during IAW. Other clubs and societies are really not involved in it. And then during that IAW, it's clear that they favor Sargis over the PSC because, like I mentioned in the article, Sargis is placed in a very visible area, right adjacent to the main bridge, the Amixet aspect, where lots of students walk past. There's lots of room for engagement, things like that. And the PSC is placed near the bottom of campus on the assembly walkway, which is really only accessed by students if they have a class in one of the buildings nearby, or if they're parked nearby. So just the mere fact that Sargis gets placed at the top and the bottom shows who controls the narrative. Previously, we had been placed, both clubs had been placed on the piazza, but there were clashes and things like that between members of either side. So that was changed. But I feel that the PSC is still treated very unfairly this year. Another thing that came out in my article that we haven't discussed yet this morning is the issue of the threatening to charge us for security, which has, prior to this year, has been completely unheard of at the university, because the fact that WITS wants to get societies to pay for private security, which we had not even requested, they got ahead of time, predicting a clash between us and Sargis, and then threatening to force us to pay for it is something so ridiculous to me. because the PSC does not get funding from any external organization. Our membership fees for the year are only 50 Rand. We don't have a maximum amount of sign-ups. And then they still threaten to make us pay for private security, which I think is completely unfair.
Okay, let's go to the second point in response to all of the, in response to your article and allegations being made against them. They go on to say, secondly, the PSC did not inform the university of its intended plans, nor apply for permission to hold a picket or protest on 21st April 2022, and it was thus an unauthorized event during the graduation season. Why did the PSC not follow the university's rules? Why did they not apply for permission to picket or inform the university of the intention to have an event on campus? What would happen if every student club in society did not follow the university's rules? Humairaa.
So yes, we inform the university of our intended plans. That's very much obvious with regards to everything that's been going on. We didn't do so because the university typically takes extremely long to authorize and approve of any plans the PSC has. And like you know, that week specifically was characterized by the clashes, not the clashes, the attacks of worshippers at the Masjid al-Aqsa, at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre by Israeli soldiers. And I mean, it was happening at the time. So we, as the PSC, as the BDS Coalition, and other pro-Palestine activists in South Africa had to make a statement at that time. It was very much a thing which was very, it needed to be done immediately, so to say. So we went ahead with it. We asked the university, they would have probably said no, or they would have probably given us a runaround like they usually do. And it's very unfortunate that it all manifested and unfolded this way, but we felt that it was necessary. So, like I mentioned earlier, South Africans have the right to sit and picket peacefully. It's not as if we were preventing people from crossing the bridge. We only took up approximately half of the bridge firstly, so people were still able to walk through. Many people walked through while we were there. We weren't doing anything violent or anything like that. We were completely peaceful. We were just standing there.
Okay. Let me interrupt you there, Humairaa, and bring in their third point, and this obviously specifically to the issue, the picket on the bridge. They go on to say that it is illegal for any club or society to have a picket on the bridge that crosses the freeway. This is a breach of the city's bylaws, as the distraction could be dangerous to motorists driving beneath the bridge. All the historical examples stated in the piece penned by Humairaa Mayet are misleading and not factual. For example, some students were found guilty of disrupting a concert some 10 years ago. After an independent inquiry, the findings were made public. It was not a kangaroo court. In another instance, the writer intimates that the university can influence the South African Police Service. This is not true. Matters of public order fall under the purview of the SAPS. The university brings in private security when required to protect people and property when our internal protection services officers cannot manage alone. End of communique. There you go. That's their response, Humairaa, placing you and PSC in a very damning light, does it not?
Yes, it definitely does. And I think that what they said is entirely untrue, because we have evidence from not just from this year, from previous years, from even 10 years ago, that really from 2005, that show that what the PSC, that what Wits is saying is completely untrue, and that the PSC has always been a target to Wits. So can I just start by saying that so the picket on the bridge, actually, before I joined the PSC, just a few years ago, the PSC itself had a picket on the bridge where they had a similar banner saying "Boots for Support" or whatever it is. And that wasn't disrupted by the university. So I don't understand why this was, perhaps because this drew a much larger crowd than that one. We really hadn't intended for such a large number of people to come because, I mean, we didn't have an RCC system or anything like that. But we didn't think that many students or outsiders would pitch up to the protest. But as a sorry, but I feel like last student that drew a lot of attention of the university, and also the fact that it was graduation season. We obviously hadn't planned for it to coincide with graduation season. Simply responded to the attacks in Palestine, in the occupied territories, and that just happened to coincide with graduation. Also, videos that we posted on Twitter clearly see the security telling us to move to the bridge, the one closer towards Braamfontein, which is also over the highway. So if they were worried about it being a breach of the city's bylaws, they wouldn't have advised us to move to the adjacent bridge, because that still shows all our paraphernalia visible to motorists and things like that. So I don't think we were even worried about on the day. Their primary concern was the fact that we were doing a pro-Palestine demonstration at the university, and they wanted to stop that.
Okay, this does place the PSC in a very damning light as far as the university authorities are concerned. Where to from here for the PSC? Because it seems like they're going to be stifling your voices as you go along. And clearly, it also points to the issue around their funders. How are you going to be able to operate as an activist or an activist group in a space like this?
We're obviously going to try our hardest to keep going, to try and mobilize support from the students, staff of the university, things like that. We're going to try and partner with outside organizations such as the BDS Coalition, who will assist us with our endeavors on campus. We're also at the moment trying to build relationships with other parties on campus, other clubs and societies on campus, such as PASCO, the NCUC, clubs and societies who are typically sympathetic towards the Palestinian cause. And I think that will go quite well. I'm very optimistic in that regard. I do hope that something good can come of this. I know that the PSC received a lot of negative publicity in the aftermath of the incident on the bridge, but I think it showed other clubs and societies on campus what they might face one day should they not adhere to every little nitpicking law of the university. We've spoken to a few other clubs and societies where we're trying to speak to more, we're trying to speak to organizations, we're trying to speak to the press, things like that. I am planning putting out a response to Witz's response to my article, given that I do not agree with what was we have really reached out to ex-PSC executive members who can tell you in their own experience what they were subjected to by Wits.
Right, Humairaa, is there any way at all that you could be meeting the Wits, officials? Is there any way at all that you guys could try and meet halfway, try to understand each other, raise your concerns, and perhaps go forward in working together? Or does this still underscore the issue that I read out earlier on about the funders putting a lot of pressure on Wits University? That's the one issue. And as we round up, I'd like to hear that hopefully, despite all of the negative publicity being put out by Wits University against you as an activist, your organization and BDS, that there isn't any physical or other harassment against you guys.
Okay, so just first in response to meeting with the university, it doesn't seem that might happen anytime soon. Typically, when you meet with the university, it's only for bureaucratic issues. They never really want to discuss the way forward. It's almost as if they just put us for IAW. Of course, like we do hope that this won't result in them displaying extra harshness towards us in years to come, or should we have any events later this year on campus. Um, but yeah, as far as any harassment or anything that we as the PSC or as individuals have faced following the picket, nothing has happened, which I think is really good. Also, the issue of the funders, we before we can say anything to the university about the funders or anything like that, we need to get more information about the funders. And like I said earlier, it's quite challenging to get anything out of it, particularly information about donors and things like that. So we are working on that at the moment, and hopefully we'll come across something which might be able to assist our cause sometime soon.
Humairaa Mayet, it's been absolutely wonderful getting your side of the story. And of course, we, as I've indicated, we did give this university the right to reply. Or rather, let me put it this way, we have been trying to make contact with them throughout the month of Ramadan, but the only thing we got back was that a written communication, which I presume has been sent out to other media networks as well. So there you have it, Humairaa Mayet, the chair of Wits PSC and also member organization of the South African BDS Coalition. Keep that flag flying high, Humairaa. We really need warriors and activists like yourself to keep this story alive, the plight of the Palestinian occupation. Wonderful talking to you. Go well, and salaam alaikum to you.
Thank you so much. Walaikum salam.
8:43 exactly, news and views right here on a Wednesday morning with me, Julie Ali. And in a minute or two, we are going to bring you another story out of the occupied territories, a very sad story, the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh, an Al Jazeera journalist shot dead in the West Bank whilst she was covering a story for Al Jazeera network.